Most people are not destroyed by pain itself, but by their refusal to listen to what it's trying to say. Pain is not your enemy, it's the part of you that's screaming because it's been ignored, minimized or misunderstood for far too long. In a world obsessed with comfort and distraction, we are taught to numb, avoid or override our suffering. But the truth is, the longer you run from pain, the louder it gets. Your anxiety, your burnout, your broken relationships, these are not random. They're the messengers of a deeper story your soul has been trying to tell. Until you pause and pay attention, that story will keep repeating. Real transformation begins not with fixing yourself, but by listening to what hurts with curiosity instead of judgment. Because pain, when heard, becomes a guide instead of a curse. Pain doesn't come to shame you, it comes to alert you. The first mistake people make is seeing their pain as a personal defect, a weakness that needs to be fixed or hidden. But pain is not proof that something is wrong with you, it's proof that something matters. It's your psyche's way of waving a red flag, saying, something here needs your attention. Whether it's emotional pain from childhood abandonment, heartbreak, failure, or anxiety, you are not broken, you're being called inward. This shift in perception is crucial, from judging your pain to becoming curious about it. Many people walk around thinking they're defective because they feel too deeply. But what if those deep feelings are the very compass guiding you toward what you need to heal? Pain often carries the truth of what you've been denying, your unmet needs, your ignored boundaries, your suppressed grief. And because you've been conditioned to avoid discomfort, you start numbing it. But numbness is not healing, it's only delay. Think of physical pain, a cut, a burn, a broken bone. The pain is not the problem, it's the alarm system. The same is true emotionally. Your sadness might be signaling loneliness. Your anger could be pointing to betrayal. Your anxiety might be warning you that you're living out of alignment with your values. But most people don't ask what their pain is telling them. They ask how quickly they can silence it. The danger of this approach is that it turns pain into a chronic state rather than a temporary messenger. When pain is ignored, it evolves. It morphs into self-sabotage, depression, addictive behaviors, or chronic burnout. Not because you are weak, but because you're trying to survive without the wisdom pain was trying to offer you in the first place. The power lies in shifting your response. Instead of immediately reaching for distraction, social media, overwork, substances, toxic relationships, try pausing and asking, what is this pain asking me to notice? That question alone can change everything. Pain starts to feel less like an enemy and more like a guide, raw, honest, and inconvenient, but always truthful. This is where real growth begins. Because pain is not just about survival, it's about evolution. Pain shows you where the wound is still open, where the soul still longs for attention, and in listening, something powerful happens. You begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that were silenced. You start honoring the child who was neglected, the lover who was betrayed, the self who was never fully seen. This process is not easy. It requires courage, patience, and humility. But the alternative is worse. A life spent outrunning something that was never trying to destroy you, only trying to awaken you. When you stop pathologizing your pain and start respecting it, your entire relationship to yourself changes. You begin to see your sensitivity as a gift, your emotions as guides, and your pain as a sacred teacher. So the next time you feel something uncomfortable rising, don't rush to fix it or flee from it. Get curious. Ask what it wants you to hear, because pain is not a flaw in your design. It's a signpost pointing you back to yourself. Avoidance may feel like protection, but in truth, it is quiet surrender. Every part of you that you suppress doesn't disappear. It waits. And while it waits, it grows. What you refuse to look at doesn't weaken. It becomes stronger, more cunning, more deeply embedded in the unconscious. It leaks into your habits, your relationships, your self-talk. The fear you won't name begins making decisions for you. The insecurity you won't admit starts driving your behavior. And the grief you keep buried shapes your capacity to feel joy, all because you're afraid to face what hurts. Most people live their lives trying to control what they feel by controlling what they see. If they don't see it, they think it can't harm them. But it does, just not in obvious ways. It harms you by limiting your potential. It distorts your sense of self. It pulls you into patterns you don't even realize you're repeating. You keep attracting the same kind of pain in different disguises, and you call it bad luck. But it's not luck, it's the return of the thing you're avoiding. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is exactly what happens when we hide from our emotional pain. That fear of abandonment you never healed, it now makes you chase validation in toxic relationships. That unprocessed shame from childhood, it now keeps you performing for approval. The more you avoid the truth of your wounds, the more power they have over you. And the longer you avoid them, the more deeply they entrench themselves into your identity. Avoidance feels safe because it gives you temporary relief. But temporary relief is not healing. It's a loop, a trap, a cycle that offers no way out unless you break it with awareness. You might avoid by staying busy, by always saying I'm fine, by pushing people away before they can hurt you. But all of this effort is in service of keeping the pain untouched, and ironically, that untouched pain becomes the most dominant force in your life. Here's the hard truth. Anything you're afraid to feel has already taken control. And freedom doesn't come from resisting it. It comes from meeting it. The parts of you that you exile, the fear, the rage, the guilt, those are the parts that most desperately need your presence, not your judgment, not your rejection, your presence, because only in the light of your awareness can they begin to loosen their grip. Healing begins with willingness, not the readiness to fix, but the courage to see, to sit with discomfort long enough to understand its roots. You don't need to solve everything in one moment, but you do need to stop running. The act of turning toward your pain is itself a form of liberation. Even if your hands shake, even if your voice cracks, even if you don't know what to say to the wound when you finally face it, your willingness to face it starts the process. And what you'll find is this: the thing you feared was never as dangerous as your silence around it. What you avoided had wisdom, not destruction. It had truth, not shame. And it was waiting, not to overpower you, but to be integrated, to be felt, to be held like a child who never got the love they needed. That's what healing actually is. Not slaying demons, not pretending to be whole, but meeting the parts you buried, and saying, I see you now, you don't have to hide anymore. Because when you stop avoiding the dark, you realize it was never the enemy. It was the neglected messenger carrying the next piece of your wholeness. And when you face it, it stops controlling you. Pain only becomes suffering when we resist it. Most people don't realize that pain itself isn't the enemy. It's the refusal to listen to it that causes damage. When pain is treated like a threat instead of a message, we disconnect from its purpose. We rush to suppress it, deny it, drown it in distractions, or numb it with surface-level solutions. But beneath every ache, there's a hidden truth trying to rise. And if you slow down and actually listen, that pain transforms, it softens, it begins to speak, not in words but in patterns, in insights, in emotional clarity. Listening is the beginning of healing, because it shifts you from being a victim of your experience to a student of it. When you listen to pain instead of escaping it, you start noticing the places inside you that were never truly seen. Maybe your anxiety is a cry for boundaries you've never enforced. Maybe your sadness is grief for the version of yourself you abandoned to survive. Maybe your anger is the defense of a voice that was silenced too many times. These aren't random symptoms to get rid of. They're signals pointing to what's unhealed, what's unmet, what's unloved. And by listening, you stop treating these parts of you like enemies. You start understanding them as messengers. Pain is the body's and psyche's alarm system, designed not to punish you, but to alert you. Emotional pain works the same way. It says, pay attention here, something matters, something needs you. But if you ignore it, suppress it, or override it with fake positivity, you miss the opportunity to learn, and then the pain grows louder. It begins to repeat in relationships, in career struggles, in mental loops. It will keep showing up until you finally ask it, what are you trying to tell me? There's wisdom in every wound, but you have to approach it with curiosity, not judgment. When you judge your pain, when you tell yourself you shouldn't feel this way, you shame the part of you that's already hurting, and shame never heals anything. But when you sit with the pain, when you give it space without trying to fix it immediately, something changes. You create room for understanding. You begin to see not just the pain but the story behind it. And in that story lies the wisdom, the unmet need, the broken boundary, the truth that never had words. Listening doesn't always mean solving. Sometimes it just means being present with what hurts, letting it breathe, letting it express without being silenced. Because often, pain just needs to be witnessed in order to move. Once it's been heard, it begins to integrate. It becomes a part of your story that carries insight, not just injury. Carl Jung believed that wholeness doesn't come from perfection, but from integration. You don't become strong by erasing the pain, you become strong by understanding it. And that understanding only comes when you stop reacting to pain with fear and start responding with awareness. So ask yourself, what is my pain trying to teach me? What am I unwilling to feel that's keeping me from healing? These questions are not comfortable, but they are powerful, because the moment you truly listen, your relationship with pain shifts. You begin to see how every time you were broken, there was a lesson hidden in the cracks. You begin to realize that wisdom isn't just learned through success, it's born from surviving and understanding your darkest moments. Suffering ends where listening begins. The pain doesn't have to go away to stop controlling you. It just needs to be heard, and once it's heard, it no longer has to scream. You may forget the details of your past. You may even convince yourself that certain things weren't a big deal, but your body doesn't forget. While your mind can rationalize, suppress, and explain away pain, your nervous system keeps a perfect record. Every time you ignored your needs to keep the peace, every time you silenced your voice to be loved, every time you endured something too overwhelming to process, your body stored that memory. It shows up later not in words but in sensations. Anxiety with no clear trigger, exhaustion that rest can't fix, tension in the chest, or unexplained emotional outbursts. These are not random, they are echoes. The body remembers what the mind tries to bury. Trauma isn't just about what happened to you, it's also about what never got processed. When a painful experience is too intense, your brain may disconnect from it to protect you. This is called dissociation, And while it's a helpful survival response in the moment, it doesn't erase the pain, it only delays it. That unprocessed emotion stays alive in your body, waiting for a chance to complete its cycle. Until then, your body remains in a subtle state of alert. You may flinch at harmless comments, you may feel unsafe in safe places, you may struggle with trust, rest or joy, not because you're broken, but because your body still believes the danger hasn't passed. Ignoring these signals only deepens the disconnection. You might live your life from the neck up, staying busy, overthinking, numbing, staying in control, anything to avoid the discomfort your body carries. But healing isn't a mental event, it's a full-body process. And it begins when you stop trying to outthink your pain and start feeling it instead. Listening to the body is not about dramatizing pain, it's about honoring it. It's about recognizing that your tight jaw, your shallow breath, your clenched gut, they all have something to say. They're trying to speak the truth your mind has avoided. This is why real healing can't be rushed or forced. You can't just think positive or move on. You must learn how to be with what hurts. You must give your body the safety it never had, safety to feel, to release, to unwind the tension it's carried for years. That safety can come through breathwork, movement, stillness, therapy, or even just presence. The goal isn't to relive the past, it's to complete what never had a chance to be processed, so your body can finally relax. Carl Jung believed that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our lives and we will call it fate. The body is one of the clearest pathways to that unconscious. The very symptoms you've been trying to escape are often the doorway to your truth. That lingering anxiety, it might be unexpressed fear from years ago. That numbness, a sign you had to shut down emotionally to survive. That tension, a body stuck in protection mode. These aren't flaws, they are messages, and when you listen, you reclaim power from the silence. So if you feel like you've done all the right things and still feel stuck, look beneath the surface. The work is not just in the mind, it's in the muscles, the breath, the nervous system. Your healing won't come only from understanding your story, it will come from embodying a new one. From creating a reality where safety, expression, and connection are possible. That requires patience, compassion, and the courage to feel what you once had to suppress. The body remembers so that you can finally remember yourself, not just what you survived, but what you lost along the way. And in remembering, you give yourself the chance to reclaim wholeness, not by erasing the past, but by integrating it. Because the pain your body carries is not meant to punish you, it's meant to wake you up to what still needs love,